Bradley. I'm going to show you another miniature picture now. It's one I've been asked to produce, so a little bit more pressure. Should be fun. Hope you enjoy it. Now this is the picture that we're going to be drawing. It's a church in Ulldemolins in Spain, and it's the size I'm going to be doing it is this size, 5 centimeters deep by 8 centimeters long. So let's get started. Right, I've put a base of white already on the sky, so I'm now putting a bluey grey on. Now the idea here is to make this a little darker than the buildings in the front. Let me show you what I mean. You see, all the buildings in the front are light, apart from the shadows, so I need to have quite a good base behind it to show these up. Now all this particular photograph that I'm using is all blue. There's no clouds, but that's a bit boring, so I think we'll put a bit of cloud in. But what we've got to bear in mind is that we've got to have it quite strong by the building, so I'm going to start at that point there and add the blue. Now this is the first application of blue on the white and the grey base, and you can see that I've just left a little bit of cloud showing through here and through there. Now that may all change, and so what I'm doing now is darkening it up. Based on what I saw there, is I'm going to just put a little more blue, carefully here. Bear in mind that we've got to have a contrast between the building and the sky. Okay, let's just test and see how that's going to look. I'm using a colour shaper because it's much more difficult to get my fingers in here, so we'll just swirl that round and see what happens. Now, what do I think? That's not bad, so I'll continue with that across the rest of the sky. Right, now that's a little better. I've got a stronger colour, but it's still not strong enough. So I'm going to show you a little trick that I get up to. Look at that. How do you do that, Colin? Well, I'll show you. What it is, I've got some polychromos pastel sticks. Now, these are very tricky to use, but they're very, very strong. And they work very well on top of the pastel pencil. You don't need very much of them, you just need a little. And you see the difference that makes. You can do it right with your finger, or you can use a coloured shaper. Or you can do, as I'm going to do, both. Put it in with the colour shaper and then just touch it with your finger. And you see much smoother that is. Right, I'm happy with the tone of blue now. So what I'm doing now is just introducing just a little interesting cloud. I don't want very much. I don't want to repeat what I've got over there, but I want something on that side. That will do. Now, just to get a little bit more strength to it, I'm using this the polychromos stick, white stick, and whilst I know I'm hiding it up, and I'm sorry about it, but that's the way it's got to be, the way I can get it in, and I'm just putting a little bit more. Use the pencil first because it gives you the sort of half tone in the cloud, and then that just adds a little more to it. And when you think you've done enough, which I think I have now, you stop and you leave it. A little white fluffy cloud going through. Leave it at that. You can always come back to that later, but I think that's pretty good. Now look at the mess I've made here. Let's show you how to get rid of that. What we do is we go around with one of these special gadgets and very, very carefully reinstate the blue. Now, this is going to take some time, as you can see, so you'll have to come back to me, but you can see the effect. Now I'm going to get this little tricky bit done first because it's so small and tiny, and I'll show you how I'm going to do this. It's like in a little box there, and then on top of it we've got another little bit very, very small, as you can imagine. This is so tiny. little bit of top there, and then on top of it we've got just a little bit of a triangle. Gosh, that's small, isn't it? Now there are limitations here, obviously, and I'm not going to be able to put every tiny detail in, but I'm also working on this, although you're looking at it more or less straight on, I'm looking at it on the side, because I've got a couple of little feature bits here, a little bit here to go on, like that, and a little bit here to go on, like that. Once those are established, okay, now when we come down the bottom here, we've got it goes out a bit, just before it goes on to the, just there. And it's same on the other side. Okay. Great. Now, just before I go, there's quite a lot. This is a bigger than we think it is. So what I've got to do is the blue pencil, one of the blue pencils I used earlier, I'm going to make that just a little bit smaller. The line on either side. Now I can go either side of that line. I can go this side if I want to, because it's only just touching a little bit of colour in, like that. And I think that's probably looks. The only problem with that is this has got an arch on it. So I've now got to just put a little bit of a feature to make it look more like an arch rather than a square. I think I've succeeded there. And you can always, pastel pencils, you always go back and check it out later. But now, let's put along here, and down here, and there. Okay. Okay. Now I've got to put a bell in there. Now folks, you're talking very tiny. That point, look at the size of the pencil. What I've got to do here is put an indication that the bell's in there. Now you can't draw this, you've just got to twiddle with it. There's a little bit of detail on the top. This is where it's joined here, where it rings, and then at the bottom, this is where the bell is. I just blow out of the way. Now that's probably as good as we're going to get. If you fiddle, you ruin. But I think that's quite good. Now just while I'm here, I just want to put a little bit of strength under there. That's good. I don't think I can do any more to that. Leave it alone. But you've seen it very close. Now see it further away. There you go. Now that's and there's my finger. I'll give you an idea how small that is. But that will do. Right, moving on. This is one of the problems that we're going to have. You see that all that fancy work round there? Well, how on earth are we going to be able to establish that? Well, like that, you see. Now, I've done one half, so I'll show you the other. But to appreciate this fully, you've got to go in close. Right, I started by putting a little of this mauvey grey onto top of the white. I'd already put white on top of that, underneath that. So this is going on top. Now I can give it a fairly good dose because on top of that I'm going to blend it in with the grey. This is a light grey. Now I did this a couple of times before, but I think I'm going to have to do it twice again. Right, let's give it a go. It's not bad actually. I'm tempted. I'm tempted to try it. And what I did then is re-established. You see, I put a little clock in there, and then around the edges, you put this on top. Use the white pencil just to put this little pattern back in again. Now we're dealing with a very small area, but once this is magnified and we see the whole thing, we won't be focusing on just this one area, but that looks good. That looks pretty good. Now along the top there I've gone in there with a little, this is a very dark brown, and not a lot of room there to manoeuvre. I'm going to go down in there quite tight. There we are. There we are. That's good. Now just to, I'm almost tempted not to touch this, but I just want a little bit more strength under there. Makes it stand out. Okay, now just on here, just to quieten this down a bit, I'm just going to touch this in very, very lightly with my colour shaper. All it does, it quietens it down instead of being too strong, and then we can just re-establish this white down here again, and I think we'll have to leave it at that.